Tell me when we hit 30 minutes.
Okay.
That way we can, if we're in the middle so that we can start moving.
Are you going to scroll this up as we go?
Yeah, I got the button.
Okay, just making sure.
You're all right. This is banter. Did you know? Did you even know?
Do you know? Do you know?
I really thought you were going into a song I knew.
Do you know what? I think that's Robin Big. Do you like Robin Big?
I remember Robin Big. I didn't remember them singing the song.
Yeah, that was on it. Bobby Light. That's why I want to take the podcast. One from each shitter in the house. He raps. He does a music video. And
well, this is definitely making the pre banter. Nate live from the shitter.
That's it.
All right. Hey, everybody. We're not in the bathroom, but welcome to Raising Spirits, the podcast where we raise the question, did we miss the podcast trend or are we just fashionably late? I'm Will.
And I'm Nate.
Luckily, you can read the things in bold. Thanks for tuning in, dialing in, or clicking the link, depending on where you are and what time you're tuning in from. As we launch our podcast for the first time ever, trust us, this is the first time we've ever said these things, with the hopes of sharing some interesting stories, insights, sophomoric humor, rap references, unnecessarily long words, sports analogies, and we find out if it really is the friends we made along the way as we talk about business, leadership, culture, and the hospitality industry. Nate, we're not just raising spirits, we're also raising spirits. What are we sipping on today?
Yeah, so today here I have some Weller, the 107 Antique. This is my premium whiskey of choice. Also comes from the Buffalo Trace Distillery. And so I thought this would be a great occasion to bust this out.
That's awesome. We did a tour. We were in Louisville last year, my wife and I, and we did the Buffalo Trace tour, which is awesome. And she got the bung. So we're super proud of her for that.
The hell is the bung?
Well, that's what goes in the bung hole. If you ever wondered.
Interesting.
That said, let's just get right into it. We got a couple things we want to talk about today, or else why would we have a podcast? First and foremost, or first and least most, casinos. Nate, did you know New York is preparing to approve 3 casino licenses?
Yeah, I've seen, kind of been following over the past couple of years, actually. I know when they approved the ones in upstate, New York, it was interesting to see when they would get down to the boroughs, and saw that there were a few different companies that recently pulled out based on their applications for these casinos. I think one being the MGM, and I think Jay-Z's group.
Jay-Z down at the old TRL studios in Times Square. That one's gone by the way. So that was a Caesars venture.
Yeah, I'm not gonna cry. Last thing I think of is wanting to fight traffic in New York to get to a casino if I'm a local going to game. But I definitely think it might have been good for obviously the tourists. But
last thing I think of is Eminem telling Mark Wahlberg they wanted to get together in one funky bunch. That's what I think of when I think of that spot.
That's perfect. That's perfect for this. I think it's about the other ones that are still pushing through. I think they got a $500 million application fee,
plus another $500 million for local interests, which I'm actually excited about. I think there's a lot of good that can come from this project. Now the 3 that they did approve are not in Manhattan. We've got 1 in the Bronx and 2 in Queens, including Resorts World that already is there. They're doing a big expansion at the Aqueduct Racetrack.
Yeah, actually, I can't remember if it's Mr. Judo himself who worked over there, but I frequent Queens when I go to New York on a every few month basis, and again, it kind of reminds me of when I'm back in Green Bay, going through the city or the streets of Green Bay, and all of a sudden, bam, there's a 4 or 5 story building. It's the largest building in the area, and that's what it feels like going into Queens, and all of a sudden on the outskirts there, running into that racetrack. I think they have a Hyatt connected to them, a partnership with Hyatt there. But you're running through the streets of Queens. You got all the shops, the stores, houses, and then all of a sudden, boom! Right there, you got this this big area for gaming. So I know they've had a lot of success over the years, but again, it'll be interesting to see once they get tables in there, as they've been predominantly and solely, I think, machines over the past handful of years.
Another place in Queens where they've been playing games, maybe not taking them as seriously as we like them to, is Citi Field, where the Mets play, and that's the other location in Queens where Steve Cohen and the Hard Rock are working on an $8 billion expansion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mets, I saw last week they lost Pete Alonso and I think Garcia, both, so tough hits for them.
They still got our Frankie Lindor, so they're in good shape.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned the other day, I think the polar bear, Pete Alonso, man, going over to the Orioles, he reminds me of you. If you were a baseball player, that'd be you.
I do have several layers of blubber. Thank you. The interesting part about this project here at Citi Field is it is expanding into what is park space. And so by ordinance, they have to do a lot of improvements to those green spaces as well as the subway underneath. A lot of good stuff supposed to come from this. Rarely do you hear of a casino opening where it's going to improve any natural spaces or infrastructure.
Yeah, I think that's a big positive in this day and age. The more you can incorporate, different things from a hospitality and tourism perspective into your facility, you're going to bring more different markets in. It's more of a family event. You got other things that appeal besides just the sporting event, the casino, that you can really make a day or a week, trip out of it. But again, 2 properties, both in the Queens area, one on each side of the borough there, and I think that one's closer to LaGuardia, the airport. So again, I'll be interested to see over the next few months from approval standpoint, but once it comes to build, how that all comes about and what their target market really is. We both come from a highly frequent property as our most late venture, and it's a different animal versus kind of the more regional casino where you're getting in those those tourists or those less frequent trips throughout the course of the year. So it'll be all interesting to see.
It's going to be definitely interesting to see how it affects AC down in Atlantic City there. But also, let's not forget to talk about Bally's in the Bronx with a $4 billion project on a former Trump golf course.
Yeah, they're bringing in the big guns there. So again, that'll be just another property. Gaming's been strong over the years, and getting another one closer to the city, being the mecca, one of the meccas of traveling and destinations in the United States. Again, I can't see how they can't have success. There'll be a lot of things that go into the opening, as we both know. Opening a property isn't easy. There's a lot of hard work and preparing that goes into it. But that satisfaction once you get it done and seeing those customers flow in and out the doors, there's nothing better.
Yeah, no bigger stage than the greatest city in the world there. And if you guys are uncertain about opening a new casino in an urban environment, we know a couple guys that are welcome to help you on a consulting side. So give us a shout. Nate, are you ready for some football?
Hell yeah, go Pack go. Got a big game this weekend.
Well, that's great because we just had the draw for the World Cup.
Well, different type of football. I haven't been to a soccer game, but I do know with the upcoming year, we got a lot of big plans throughout the United States to host these events, and North America on the greater side of things.
Yeah, we got 16 U.S. stops for this whole thing. 1.2 million international visitors expected. This stuff is serious stuff. As much as you may be engaged at a Packer game, we went to an Arsenal game across the pond last year before, and it gets intense. It was an international play, and the French team not only brought water bottles that they were happy to throw at Arsenal, go Gunners, but also brought road flares that they also threw on the field and started fires within their area. And instead of the local authorities escorting them out, they protected them because of the 60,000 Arsenal fans chanting against them. That 2,000 folks were herded out after the game and put on their buses and sent right back to France.
That's my type of devotion.
You would have loved it. You would have loved it.
When I say I bleed green and gold, man, some of these football fanatics, man, they're right up there with it, and I can only respect it.
So we're bringing that excitement right to our shores here, as well as two cities in Canada and 3 cities in Mexico. Huge international agreement there that in a time where we rarely get those kind of things working. 78 matches in the U.S. Across those cities, starting in L.A., ending in New Jersey. lot of great opportunity for the hospitality folks in these areas to make an international impression.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is the impact we can make on the hospitality front. And, we're always looking to find ways to, to increase our levels of occupancy in hotels, across the country. And what better way to have, new blood that may not have been to the States or visited some of these cities to, come out, have a good time. Obviously, they're rooting for their team, but they're going to go back and hopefully make a future trip back, bring their family, their friends, try to share in what their experience was when they were here in the States.
Definitely a great opportunity for us to make an international impact. A lot of big cities, obviously New York, Dallas, Miami, out in San Francisco, Chicago, all these areas that are very big. But I was interested to see Kansas City added to the roster. That's going to be a really big opportunity for them to make an international impression.
Yeah, with their original football hopes diminishing with the Chiefs, I think they need something going on there, so it's good for them.
If you're out there traveling over the course of this time, take a look at that schedule. If anybody's playing England, Brazil, Argentina, and France are the favorites. If they're playing, those rates are going to go up. Those hotels are going to have above average occupancy, and you're going to meet a different type of traveler. So depending on what you're trying to do, make your plans as appropriate. You know what I love, Nate?
Besides food?
Well, this is food. Moons over my hammy. That's my favorite thing at Denny's. And it may be a while before I'm able to get one because they're closing 150 stores.
I thought that was one of your yoga moves or something.
No, that's how I hurt my back. 10% of their stores they're closing conveniently or inconveniently, depending on who you are, right after they were just acquired by some public debt there. Saying it has nothing to do with the acquisition, but strange timing for them.
Yeah, very, very. All I think back to when you mentioned your moons over Hamlet is the Lumberjack Slam. That's the go-to late night. Denny's is one of those few restaurants open late, open 24 hours. Growing up in the Midwest, after a tough night of boozing, need something to soak up that, and nothing better than Denny's. Maybe a Perkins can compare closely.
Yeah, moons over Hamlet, also known as the Melancholy Danish. Denny's has been the go-to for so many folks in those off-hour jobs. We obviously are focused on the hospitality industry, but your first responders, nurses, truckers, giving a much-needed place to eat, but also a place to make those connections that you can't make in those strange hours. Having worked graveyard myself, I know it is hard to live a life when the world is closed.
Yeah, I spent a good amount of time early on in Nevada, and fortunately the bars never closed, so whether I got off at 7 in the morning, 2 in the morning, I always had a place to go, and we had our local joints that we looked to get those meals that would kind of compare to Denny's. But again, you have your clientele, your regulars that you get to know as off-hour shifts, as you mentioned, and yeah, it's definitely a place. I've been hit personally. I saw a couple of these close here in Ohio, and I know there's only a few that mentioned that they've closed, so some of them might be just under from renovation. But again, it'll be interesting to see as the new year comes in with this new acquisition, what else is entailed for Denny's.
Yeah, change is inevitable. Hopefully there's some local opportunities that could fill these gaps for these folks at a much lower price point as it comes to franchise fees and marketing.
What up, Lucas?
How we doing?
Shout out to Lucas in the studio. Question I would normally ask Lucas, but I'm going to ask Nate. What the fuck is this?
What the fuck is this? All right, I got a good story for you. You can rate it whether it's good or not. But I had about a half hour to burn to grab a bite to eat a little bit back, and I said, well, where can I go? Grab something quick. I had to pick up my daughter, and so I found this, let's call it a Mexican chain, burrito chain that I strolled up into.
Rhymes with Aristotle.
Yeah, that's a good reference there. And not to call them out, but I roll up. I'm on one of my no meat binges for the year, and stroll in. Stanchion's empty. I said, man, this is my day. No wait. And what I quick realized was today is Nacho Day.
Nacho Day.
You remember that those Unforgivable videos from YouTube?
No.
Yeah, today is Nacho Day. Anyway, So I stroll up to the stanchions, and the chef or cook behind the counter yells to me, "Hey, we're out of chicken." And I said, "Well, good. That's perfectly fine with me." So I go up thinking I'm about to order this cheese quesadilla. Lo and behold, he tells me otherwise and says, "We don't serve those. You can only buy them on the app." I said, "Well, it's right there on the menu, sir. Why can't I get it?" And he said, "Well, we're only allowed to make them from the app. We can't ring them up here."
It's a complicated dish.
So
Traces back to Escoffier.
when I realize he's not joking with me, I humor him, and I got a few minutes to burn again. So download the app, plug in my credit card information, hit order, and the next available time, because of course it's in 15-minute intervals, is 4 o'clock. So I got about 17 minutes to burn that I could select for my time. So I go sit down in the empty waiting room, or dining room as they call it, and just sit there.
Sounds more like a waiting room in this case.
It absolutely was. Twiddling my thumbs, watching while nobody moved behind the counter because there were no other customers in line. Besides the sporadic one every 5 minutes that came in and he shouted, "We're out of chicken," too, and they would turn around and leave.
International greeting.
So 4 o'clock rolls around. I don't really see anybody moving, so I proceed to walk up to the counter and ask, "Hey, is my quesadilla ready?" And they said, "Well, we don't have an order for that." I said, "Well, here's the app. Here it says, 'Thank you for your order. Success.' Where's my quesadilla?" and the lady now that came to the counter says, "We don't have an order. We can't make it for you." I said, "Is there, what can you do? I can pay cash, card, Venmo, PayPal. What do you want?" And she said, "We cannot take an order of a quesadilla from the store." I said, "All right, well, what do we need to do here? Because here's my order. Clearly, here's my order number. And you're saying you don't have anything, so what do I have to do to make this happen?" "Well, did you get charged, sir?" And so I look at the bank statement. Sure enough, I got charged 3 times. And I show her, and she says, "Well, that still doesn't help me, sir." I said, "Well, why'd you ask?" And she says, "Well, you're gonna have to get that resolved before I can do anything for you." I said, "Well, how do I resolve it if you can't handle this?" She said, "Well, that's an app situation. That's an app problem." I said, "Well, you pointed me to the app. That's the only way you serve these quesadillas." So I follow the prompts that she mentioned and find their cute little chat bot that's got a nice little name on there to talk to. And of course, they ask me for the order number, which I submit. And lo and behold, they have no recollection of an order either, even though they've already proceeded to email me with a questionnaire of how their app performance was, which was a loaded email. They have no recollection of it in the system. So she tells me I have to reach out to their support because, again, they can't handle it at the storefront. So what I thought was a quick in and out has now taken about 25 minutes of my time. And I'm invested in this, so I'm getting to the bottom of this.
I'm invested in it now at this point.
So I ask her, I say, "Do you have a manager here that I can talk to?" She yells to someone in back who knocks on the back door, and a lady comes in. She was probably enjoying her break out back. And she comes in and proceeds to tell me how they can't order a quesadilla. I need to check with my bank, all of which I've done, and I need to reach out to support. So now I have to email the different support group, and to which there must have been somebody available because he emails me right away and asks me for my credentials, the order number, and he also explains he has no reference of an order. And so I again ask, "Is there something we can just do here? I've clearly been charged 3 times. I'm just looking for a quesadilla." And she says, "No." I said, "Is there another manager here present?" And she calls the GM of the store, as they call it. And he comes in from his office and says, "What can I do here?" I explain the situation, and he does what I would have expected or wanted any of these other team members to do. He just says, "Just make the guy a quesadilla." And so the gentleman who was behind the counter the whole time goes to look down and says, "Oh, hey, we're out of cheese, too." So they're out of chicken and cheese at this restaurant. It's maybe 4 in the afternoon.
It's like 40% of the ingredients that they offer.
I could only imagine their evening if I was there late afternoon. Must have been filled with happy customers. So he said, "You got to be kidding me," which is exactly what I was thinking the whole time. Goes back to the cooler, pulls out a big block of cheese.
How big was it?
Well, it was like a wheel of cheese. When you think of Wisconsin, you think of the wheels of cheese. Yeah, that's how big, like a cheese head. And he says, "Give me a few minutes, sir. I'm going to shred this up for you." I said, "You know what? Don't worry about it, man." He said, "I got to do it anyway. We got dinner rush coming." And so I said it's not a big deal. I got to run. How do I get this handled? He said, hey, proceed with the prompts on your email. So again, they can't help me at the store. They directed me to the app. So I start emailing this guy back when I get back to the truck, and he proceeds to tell me that unfortunately, because they have no recollection of my order, and even though I send him screenshots of this order, he said there's nothing they can do. I have to take it up with my bank and dispute the charges. So more work for me, which I'm excited about. And he proceeds to end his email with, have a full day. To which I reply that, it's kind of ironic because I'm not leaving full and you didn't get me what I wanted. And he also asked if there was anything else he could do to help me. He didn't help me at all. All he did was email me and tell me to go to my bank. So he then replies with, have a burrito full day. So it was all better after that.
Well, I, for one, welcome our AI overlords and what they have to offer us in the future. In case they're listening to us, please stop by Nate's house first.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Hey, Will, you ever read those Harvard Business Reviews?
On the toilet every day.
All right. Yeah, I saw they published a response to a survey that they had taken, and last year, out of over 3,500 employees, I should say, they found out that just less than half, 48% of them trust their senior leaders.
It's not surprising, unfortunately.
And it showed that employees who trusted their senior leaders at an organization are significantly more engaged. So clearly this is speaking opposite to what most of these companies probably want.
Yeah, again, that's not surprising. I've found, obviously, in our past and through this article that, trust and employee engagement go hand in hand. You have to know that you're being led through the woods by somebody who knows their way out. And looking at their comparison, it looks like there's close to a 25-point differential in engagement between those who do and don't trust their senior leaders. Which
obviously is a significant amount, even not focusing in on the numbers. I think, as you mentioned, everyone wants to feel that they trust their leader, and everybody wants to be trusted as well. And I think in this instance, the team members and employees are telling us something different. And so I think that's an eye-opener, and should be an eye-opener for our leaders across the industry, that you got to find ways to ensure that your team trusts you, and ways to do that this review told us was one of the top points that prevented employees from trusting their leaders was withholding of information, and that employees are 20% less likely to trust their senior leaders when they believe they're concealing important information or not telling the whole story, which I'm sure we've all been a part of.
All been part of that. Yeah, it is incredibly important to treat your team with respect, and part of respect is honesty, good, bad, or otherwise, making sure that you're sharing everything you can share with them so that they're rowing in the same direction.
And even if you can't share it, share what you can.
Share the why.
Yeah.
Most of our teams are made up of professional adults that understand that not everything is public knowledge, but knowing that there are those things and not feeling that they're just left out there on their own is the whole purpose.
And I think it's important too, as a leader, that you probably have to weigh, the reason and why maybe you're withholding something, and understand, is it really worth it? Because again, this impact that it has on your team members could be much more significant than just sharing that information from the get-go.
And a lot of folks wrongly feel that information is power for them and makes them feel like they have, the authority that really their position has already afforded them. So trying to hoard that information is doing you a disservice, when the real power is in sharing and empowering your team to help you achieve those goals that you're working towards.
And there's also always a sinking ship in there too, that somebody's going to spill the beans, and then when you hear it from somewhere else besides your leader, there's nothing that makes you more frustrated than that. So
something I used to be guilty of when we worked together in a previous life was scapegoating. I used to tell a lot of people that it was Nate's fault, but it turns out employees are 30% less likely to trust their leader when they shift blame for those decisions.
Yeah, I think ownership and, again, transparency, honesty, it all ties together with this too. That there's obviously a reason for something that when it doesn't work out, or when it does, but I think sharing that that the blame, just as you would share the victory. I think it has to be honest, and it has to come from the leader themselves, and they have to be honest with themselves as to why maybe something didn't work out. Because again, a lot of times team members aren't the ones who pull the strings or make the decisions. So when something doesn't work out, I think leaders have to take accountability as well.
That's exactly it, accountability. It goes both ways. If you want your team to own their behaviors and own the mission, then you have to do them that same solid.
Yeah, one of the other ones I saw in here that hits close to home is the retracting of decisions. That drives me nuts. Is nothing like getting prepared for a launch or a rollout of something, or just a basic decision in a direction that we're going to go as a team, and then again, a week later, 5 minutes later, we got to change course. And I've always tried to live by the measure twice, cut once motto, and I think it shows that it's truly important to the teams too. If you're constantly having to redirect, you're gonna lose faith, you're gonna lose trust, and that clearly makes an impact on these team members.
Do or do not, there is no try. In the times that you have to, because it will happen, where you have to pivot on a commitment, it goes right back to being open and clear about the communication and making sure they understand the why of how that decision was changed. All three of these very different hidden dissatisfiers, or maybe not so hidden dissatisfiers, but the end result still is the same, that being open and honest with your team and communicating with them in an honest way is the real road to success.
Yeah, I saw they had some actions here that you could use to help build employee trust. And first one was identify and address employee trust deficits. So I think asking your team.
It could be uncomfortable, but honesty, in business, in relationships, and in all things, it could be messy at the beginning, but it's going to be much cleaner as you go forward to have a healthy relationship.
Absolutely. And once you get that information too, you usually gotta act on it, or at least use it to your advantage. Some inside baseball, but once you hear something from your team, you got to be able to keep that close and then try to act on that. Because again, perception is reality, and so if they're feeling something, then you got to try to show that you're gonna take action. Once you do gather that feedback from them.
It does take courage to answer that question from your leader when they ask you what's wrong. And if they have the courage to be honest, then you need to have the courage to take action and self-assess.
That's it. Another one was embrace the decision-making transparency. Again, sharing and being honest and open in the why, as you mentioned earlier. I think that resonates with team members, and when they can help piece together why we're doing something, they're going to probably be much more gung-ho, and they're going to give you their all when doing so.
Yeah, they're going to march over that hill when you give them the order if they understand what they're marching toward. It's a respect thing, making sure that your entire team is in lockstep because they know what the mission is and they know why things are taking place.
And I think inevitably too, they're going to feel more invested when they have that information to use. And then. One of my favorites, facilitating open dialogue with employees, gathering that information we talked about earlier, but provide them that platform or forum to speak their mind, and share with you.
Take the knife from out of my back. There have been many occasions where this particular point has been messy, and it can be. And obviously it's our responsibility to mitigate as much of that as leaders. But sometimes you have to get messy to get clean. You have to put things out there and make sure that you're having, frank, honest discussion, and that both sides feel comfortable with sharing the feedback that's necessary to make a better impression on the customer and a better operation.
Absolutely. That made me chuckle. That knife references that Will is speaking to was one of my first few weeks in a new position, in a new role. I had a team under me that are working alongside with me, and I wanted to gather them in a forum to where they felt they could speak freely and get a good understanding of their day-to-day. But
and boy, did they.
Yeah. So I wasn't really sure of what I was getting myself into until a couple minutes in, and the gal said, "Can I speak freely?" And I welcomed it because nobody else wanted to speak up, and that's how she started her rant, was first of all take the knife out of my back. And then she proceeded to fire shots at everyone across the table, and I had just got there. So all I'm doing is watching his innocent
St.
bystander.
Valentine's Day massacre in the boardroom there.
It was rough, but again, as a leader, you gotta make sure too. You provide the area, the opportunity for your team, but you limit situations that could then eventually turn negative, and that was one we did our best. We got the good out of it, that's for sure.
There was a good lesson there. As messy as that was clearly something that was eating that team member. They weren't being treated the way they wanted to be treated, and they didn't feel comfortable enough with the existing leadership, pre-Nate, to voice that and to say, I don't feel comfortable with how I'm being treated by my teammates, or there's something out there that's stopping me from doing my best work. And this forum allowed her to say that, allowed that to be said, and though not potentially in the way that you would prefer it, once that was out there, that problem was eliminated, and there was positive progress through the team. Better communication, better understanding of personal limits and standards of decorum, but also an understanding that there was consequence to action.
Yes, I think the squeaky wheel got the grease for sure in that situation, and the knife got the sheath too, so that was good.
Put it in the birthday cake.
One of the last ones that they mention of their actions to build trust is investing and participating in skill development programs for team members.
This is huge to me. All too often, leaders feel like investing in their team is pizza party time or buying the first round of drinks at the bar, but really comes down to investing in how they could be successful and not just ignore work for 20 minutes. Yeah,
you could throw a gift card at someone, but that doesn't mean you're going to necessarily get what you want from that team member, and by investing in them, I think from a standpoint of as a team member, you want them to be devoted to your growth and your development, right? So having a boss, having a leader, having a company or an organization that's gonna put you through training, gonna give you the proper tools so you can grow. There are some that want to just stay in the position maybe that they're in, but a lot of team members have aspirations to become something more. So once you realize that, I think the focus from companies should be to continue to develop from within, and not having the leader, the boss that's worried about you getting too great of a skill set that you're going to surpass them. I always looked at that that was a win from my standpoint. If I could teach one of my team members to do something that I did, not only am I empowering them and showing that I trust them to do it, but it gives them that motivation to want to continue to do more.
Yeah, the road to success in most organizations is a pyramid. And that there's many, many more at the bottom of that than there are at the top. So a real sign of maturity in an organization is knowing that success for that team may not lie within your pyramid, but their success outside of that is going to speak volumes about the organization you run and you as a leader. And I think more organizations need to make it easier not only to invest. We have tuition reimbursement and things like that in a lot of organizations, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and there's a very narrow idea of what is reimbursable or what is relevant to your role. And frankly, I think anything that broadens someone's horizons is valuable to their role. It's going to make them think differently. It's going to make them act differently. And if it inspires them, you're going to get something more out of them for having been a part of that.
Yeah, you bring a good point too. That some of the hoops, that go into those. I don't want to say you have to force feed them, trainings, but by providing it and making it easy, again, we don't know what everybody knows and what someone would find valuable or not, but providing some opportunity of growth consistently throughout a team member's journey is I think is key, and obviously that proves, per this report that that increases that trust. Will, what do you think of this 107 Weller?
I think I'm going to have another, and if that's not high marks, I don't know what is.
This is the perfect burgundy labeled bottle. Got a nice little synopsis on the back here. 107 proof, got a nice bite. Something you want to cozy up next to the fire with someone, huh?
Gotta have some flavor. I'm a rye guy, so anything that's got a little bite, a little spice, I'm in for. But this one for a bourbon is really hitting me well.
This is my benchmark. This is the go-to right here. You got a paperclip for us, Will?
I want to give out a paperclip this week. I had the privilege not all that long ago to head down to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. Beautiful time of year to leave Ohio and head on down there for the nuptials of our friends Patrick and Amy. Shout out Pat and Amy, mostly Amy. And part of that, it was an all-inclusive resort. Part of that is the service. You know, you really get to know these folks over the course of a week-long stay, and you got the folks that serve you at the pool and the room service and the housekeeping and all that. So with those expectations so high, it is a little tough for somebody to stand out in that, you know, with everybody being so friendly and so helpful. But I want to give a paperclip this week to Ronnie, who not only taught me I can't roll an R, which I've just proven here, but also stood head and shoulders above his peers at the wedding reception itself and in every interaction we had with him. My wife, currently and at the time, was having some knee issues coming up on a surgery there, so she wasn't getting around all that great, but she did take it upon herself to be a surrogate photographer for the wedding. So she was up and down all around, making sure she was capturing moments, and it is obviously a little warmer in the Dominican than it is in Ohio currently. So she was sweating, she was running, she was having a time. Went up to the bar to get herself a water, of all things. I don't approve of that, but you know, different strokes for different folks. And the bartender said no. And this is an all-inclusive resort, which was a beautiful place, great, like I said, great service all the way around. But this bartender just didn't happen to have any waters. Now, the other bar that did have the waters was maybe 20 steps away. But he had decided he wasn't going to assist. She said, okay, just give me another champagne. We were all enjoying champagne, celebrating the event. He also didn't have that, and he said no again. Rather than trying to find a solution, he just kind of let it go. Ronnie, who had already been a favorite of ours as he was delivering shots, teaching us new toasts to do with each other. Shout out to Table 3. We enjoyed a few of those toasts. He not only stopped because somebody's face looked like they needed something. It wasn't that he was stopped. Nobody said, hey, Ronnie, come here and help me. He was walking by and noticed that there was one of his guests that didn't look happy. And that caused him to stop. Anyone else, waits to be called upon, doesn't interject themselves into a situation where, possibly somebody is dissatisfied. A lot of people would avoid that situation. Ronnie hopped right in and said, what's wrong? Sabrina let him know what had happened, and that she was unhappy with this bartender not helping her, and just was looking for the solution, like, where do I go? How do I get a water? Ronnie jumps into action. He gets the water. He brings the champagne. He brings a bottle of champagne, puts it on the table. He goes and says some words, some of which I know from working in Nevada, some words to the bartender. I won't repeat them here, although I guess we could. Because we already said, what the fuck is this? But he made sure that the entire group, everyone working this event, knew that they were working with Ronnie, and that the standard of service was Ronnie's level of service, not maybe what they had come just to do a couple hours of service. So paperclip to Ronnie. Shout out to Ronnie. I'm sure we have a lot of listeners in the Dominican Republic. So if you know a Ronnie, maybe it's him. Let him know. But for raising the level of service for his entire team. Really just an impressive young man, and I do hope he is recognized by more than just our little group there. But again, also congratulations to Patrick and Amy. Congratulations mostly to Patrick. Amy.
Tough shit.
Yeah.
You made your choices.
Yeah, we can't undo it for you.
I thought you were going to tell me that first bartender was going to tell her to download an app. And I'm also glad that that's...
We can't make that unless you order through the app.
That is your at-the-time wife and current wife, so I'm excited to see what the future holds.
I bet she is, too.
And that about does it, guys. Raising Spirits is a new standard podcast hosted by Will Hockney and Nate Geeson, produced by Ashley Kuba, theme music by Marcus McLaughlin, music director Angel Flowers. Raise our spirits by following us on socials at RaisingSpiritsPodcast or visiting newstandardconsulting.com/raisingspirits.